Hello and welcome to the third Kamen Rider build review, which is almost on time. So here we're going to review the month of November, which is episodes 10 through 12. First, I want to kind of do an addendum to the last review because, as I said in that review, I was, taking questions regarding anything that I missed. And it turns out there were a couple things. Well, technically one thing, but another thing was a talking point. First is I completely forgot about Fire Hedgehog form. That was a real disappointment for me because unlike Lion Cleaner, which I did mention, I think Fire Hedgehog form is a lot cooler. Because like in episode 2, you had the monster that spat fire, and people were thinking, oh, that's going to be the fire truck, and then it turned out to be the dragon, and it's like, of course it's the dragon. Fire trucks don't spit fire. In this case, this one does, so I guess I understand now. The other thing is a theory that was going around in the fandom, which is that Sento is a genius because he has the mind of Katsuragi, which, if you recall, is the scientist who basically started Faust. To me, that seems a little bit shaky still. I feel like there might be a conspiracy there, but regardless, he is tentatively called the main villain. The way this theory has been presented to me, at least, is that Sento has Katsuragi's brain, which that one is a little bit too extreme for me, but I think that it's possible that they probably use some sort of techno magic to kind of transfer memories, transfer intelligence. I don't know. That could work. But regardless, that's just a theory. A Toku theory.
Thanks for watching.
I guess first thing for November is that Blood Stalk's got some pretty shady stuff going on with Night Rogue, which kind of leans into my theory from last month. Wink, wink. And then they also present this thing about how Katsuragi is Blood Stalk, which I don't buy. Also, apparently, he has the power to change people's faces because of course he can. That's such a specific power. Bloodstock's been kind of weird all this month, but I find it kind of interesting as well. Also, I feel like it's worth mentioning that on Build Rider News, I mentioned that I got spoiled by something that I didn't mean to get spoiled by because Toei likes to post photos for the next episode onto their blog, and one of them was Katsuragi holding Bloodstock's full bottle. And I saw that as like, oh no, that means Katsuragi's Bloodstock. I wish I had seen that in context. As it turns out, I don't believe it's him. The way that they're framing it, they kind of rub it in that the characters believe it. And I think Bloodstock said something to the effect of, oh, that's what you believe. And to me, that kind of all reads like it's like some sort of fake out. Like, they're trying very hard to make us believe it so that something else will happen. Also, I have written down here that the smash in this first episode of this month, episode 10, kind of leads to some confusion because apparently, according to the Kamen Rider Wiki, which is probably not the most reliable source, just saying, it says that this smash provides the Panda full bottle as well as the Densha full bottle, which is a little bit confusing since one is an animal and one is a train. But here's the thing, okay, so I went back and I kind of looked at the scene where the Panda full bottle was made, and I can see how that could come to mind, but like, I never really put together that the full bottle that we see being made is related to the smash that we just defeated. We had an example of that with the Dragon full bottle, but beyond that, I kind of just assumed that they were being made at random. Obviously, they have a lot of full bottles already before the show began, so I just kind of assumed that they just had all this Smash DNA kind of stored aside, and they were just making use of that. Moving on from that, we also get a debut of Key Dragon form, which honestly I wasn't expecting it to appear like any other form. Back when we first had toy catalog information about the show, I kind of got the impression that the Lock Full bottle was going to be some sort of Christmas debut. And because of that, I thought, oh, this is going to be in a Christmas episode or whatever, and then we're going to move straight along and pretend that it didn't exist. Instead, it just kind of debuts like any other form, which I think is kind of cool. And there's a story reason for why we will never see it again after these episodes, so I guess I was kind of right. I don't know, it's a really cool form. It's got nice powers. It's going to be a shame if the lock half at least doesn't make another appearance, because I like that look. It's got a key, chains, Houdini. Anyway, and after the battle with Key Dragon form, all of Sento's full bottles are lost, so who will save the day? Ryuga Banjo! In all seriousness, I thought it was actually kind of cool how they kind of led into Ryuga becoming a writer, because they actually did not go the way I expected them to. Because, like, here's the thing. When it comes to full bottles and their origins and their functionality together, it's just something that kind of happens by chance. Because of this, I just expected that one day Ryuga would have to kind of step in with Build's belt, and it just so happens that the little dragon buddy can go into the belt and use the full bottle to transform, and Sento would just be like, what? But as it turns out, it was all planned, and I have to applaud them for that. Sento made a very smart decision to just kind of make the Croz-Z dragon an alternate way to transform, harnessing the power of the dragon full bottle. And I also like how Ryuga's motivations are kind of challenged by this episode. Up to this point, I've just kind of been going along with it. Like, yeah, I agree with this guy. He's got good reason to be fighting. But then this episode kind of comes forward and gives you this idea that Ryuga isn't necessarily heroic. He's just, doing what he thinks is right, which are two different things, I think. It's like we've already had this idea in our head that Sento fights for right, and I guess just because Ryuga is there, you just kind of assume that he agrees. But as it turns out, he needed to kind of learn why Sento fights in order to become a writer. And I think that's actually a really good story. And then we get Sawa's whole story, which I'm a little bit foggy about, because, I don't know, it seems kind of weird. Like, she is a spy, and she's been spying on these guys, but also she's been spying on these other people because her father was killed. It's something like that. It's a little bit confusing, and I guess it's alright that she's part of the team because, hey, they both have similar goals in the end. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of glad that she's part of the team still, but it is kind of a weird sidestep from the main story. After the whole debut of Croz-Z, whose name I will probably figure out a pronunciation for, we have the debut of Kaizoku Resha form, which is pirates and trains, which is an interesting combo, and honestly, this might be my favorite combination in terms of color. I really like the shade of green and the shade of blue, and the fact that they're kind of metallic. Like, it's very delicious. Also, I like the weapon. At first glance, it's a bow, but then it's also an anchor. But also, it shoots a bullet train. Like, they are just running wild with this motif, and I love it. And, I guess the last talking point is Utsumi. Ever since Gentoku turned out to be a villain, I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, what's his story going to be? What's Utsumi going to do? And he's just kind of stood there for the most part. But this last episode of November is where he kind of takes a leading role, because he has to act as a fake night rogue to give Gentoku the chance to act as a hero. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but at the same time they kind of made his role as night rogue a little bit too obvious. Like, they barely gave him a voice filter. And once Build gets into the mix, it seems like there's a real moment between them before Gentoku basically kills him and knocks him off a bridge. That was harsh. That was really harsh. You know, it's even more interesting because I was watching this thinking, wow, Sento must feel really angry at Gintoku. But then I realized, no, they are still very much in the dark about his identity, which is interesting. You know, that's got some Death Note vibes to it. But yeah, that was November, episodes 10 through 12. Let me know if there's anything I missed that you would want me to talk about in more detail, and I will see you in the next one. Also, check out Build Writer News for more Kamen Rider Build news. See you next time. Okay, there it is. Recording! Okay, before I actually start, let me get a little bit of my coffee.